I am Donna Jackson, and I'm here to talk to you about race, poverty, and progress, an American paradox. So, this book is written about what it feels like when you're trying to achieve the American dream while black. But before we get started, let's talk about what the American dream is. In America, there's this idea of the American dream. Webster's dictionary says it's a happy way of living that is thought of by many Americans as something that can be achieved by anyone in the U.S., especially by working hard, becoming successful with good jobs, a nice house, 2 children, and plenty of money. If they can do that, they believe they're living the American dream, but is that even achievable? Here we see that 27% of all African American men, women, and children live below the poverty level. So this may be difficult to achieve. But don't become frustrated with your effort. Let's take a deeper dive into what's actually going on. Let's understand your life in context. Here we go. Now, so you were born at a certain point in history. You were born in a certain place, to some people, and under a certain specific set of circumstances that has set you on a course for your life. The statistics here say that 38% of black children live in poverty compared to 22% of all children in America. So we're 13% of the population, but we're overrepresented among poor children. So that may mean that you were born into some difficult circumstances. So who are your parents and what were their backgrounds? Did they come from a stable family background and did they give you one? Or did they come from an unstable background with a lot of violence, anger, frustration, poverty, and things of that nature? And how has that shaped you? How did they influence your norms, values, and expectations for your future? And how did that help shape your identity? So, your identity. You are black, you are in America, you experience disparate treatment, and you may be impacted by this treatment. Now, this disparate treatment can be your individual treatment or treatment of members of your group, which you have fictive kinship, and you identify with these strangers because they are similar to you in some way. So you've been socialized. So let's explore what is socialization. Socialization tells you what your role is and helps you form your identity. So it's made up of a lot of different pieces, but it talks about what you were taught, what did you see growing up, how did it affect you, and what have been your outcomes based on all of those factors. Here we see a man being brutalized by the police. So you've been working hard, but you haven't achieved the American dream. So what's wrong? Well, images like this have taken a toll on us. We've seen many of these kinds of images where people have been brutalized over and over again throughout our lives. We translate these images to mean that in a lot of ways, black people are thought of as less than and are free to brutalize, harm, or kill. And how has all these images affected us? So, how does one affect the other? Well, I argue that trauma is oppressive and achievement takes focus. And it's difficult to manage achievement when you've been subjected to so much trauma. So, what are you trying to achieve? Let's reiterate. You're trying to form stable families and healthy, intimate relationships with partners. You're trying to acquire property, maintain employment, save for your future, and retire well off. Dr. William Saltzman at UCLA conducted a study in 2001 where he surveyed 812 elementary school and middle school aged children to determine whether or not they had been affected by the trauma in their environment. Of those children, 58% reported that a close family member or friend had been hurt or killed violently as a result of an accident or a violent incident. And so those children did require treatment for their PTSD. In addition to that, we realize that we will sometimes have an increased level of substance abuse disorders, as well as other kinds of mental health concerns like heightened levels of anxiety and depression in our community. And so these are some of the concerns that we have to take into consideration when we're talking about our ability to acquire all the things we seek. So now we're looking at a slide that shows some of the effects of marginalization and oppression. The first slide depicts a group of men in prison. This is a slide depicting mass incarceration. So when we commit crimes, we are disproportionately sentenced to longer and harsher sentences than any other group. In addition to that, being poor means that a lot of these men are assigned public defenders who do not work on their clients' behalf of getting them obtaining their freedom when their cases have been based on poor or shoddy evidence that's been presented. And so the next picture that we're seeing is a picture depicting globalization and how globalization ushered in a new era and how it disenfranchised a lot of men, black men's ability to gain employment. In her book, Globalization, Uncertainty in Men's Careers, Melinda Mills says that under globalization, job stability and security have largely vanished. It's been replaced by short-term, unstable jobs of low quality with few benefits. So how does that factor into home ownership? Well, this picture shows a nice, serene neighborhood, and it also is highlighted in terms of the policy of redlining that once existed in this country. Under redlining, black families who were qualified to obtain home mortgages in certain communities were forbidden from having the ability to do so. They were shut out. So during that period of time, they were not able to participate in these wealth building practices that have benefited other groups of people. So that means that current family members have to start from ground zero, whereas other groups don't. This next photograph depicts a group of people in line ready to vote. And this one I'm labeling as gerrymandering, which is the practice of redrawing districts to dilute the black vote and the effectiveness of black collective action. The last photograph is a photograph of Chairman Fred Hampton, Black Panther Party, who was assassinated in his bed. And this speaks to the pangs of what it feels like to be Black in America and to be outspoken and to speak up on behalf of your people. The violent way that he was assassinated still rings in all of our hearts and minds. And so collectively, all of these pictures point out that there's been a full-on assault on you, your family, and your career if you're Black. So if you're Black in America, you may have to redefine progress for yourself. So for me, that has meant personal development, cultural pride, and maintaining a sense of well-being. So keep achieving and keep striving for that American dream, but keep your life in context. Race, Poverty, and Progress, An American Paradox is a book that I've written to help you think differently about your life and achievements. Hi, I'm Donna Jackson, and I thank you for listening to my presentation about my new book, Race, Poverty, and Progress, An American Paradox. And this book will be released very soon. Thank you so much.